Well, I want to pursue this a bit further, because the situation that we're now in is one of very considerable instability and lack of certainty, and that has been largely brought about by the government itself. You contributed to it last week, Taoiseach, when you continued to deny that there were discussions taking place with the EU and with the IMF. We ended up with the Governor of the Central Bank telling us on Thursday on radio what you should have told us earlier in the week. We ended up with the IMF being brought in, with an application being made to the Stabilisation Fund on Sunday, which was something that you had been denying all week. And then all of that was compounded by the decision of your partners in government to withdraw from government, although just not yet, but with the caveat that they would remain on until the budgetary process was completed. Now, you say that what needs to be done is that the budget needs to be passed. Now, let's be clear about this, because strictly speaking, there is no such thing. There is a process that happens, as you well know. The budget is brought in. There are a series of financial resolutions on the night of the budget. Many of them deal with immediate matters like excise duty, the price of petrol, the price of cigarettes, and so on. In fact, very often, they're not that controversial at all in terms of the House passing them. But it is then followed by two pieces of legislation which are required to give effect to the budgetary measures. One is the Social Welfare Bill. Last year, that was passed prior to Christmas. The other is the Finance Bill. Last year, that didn't complete its way through the House until I think it was the 25th of March. Now, I have two questions for you, Taoiseach. First of all, what is the timeline that you're talking about? Can you set out for us here the steps? If you're saying, and you've responded to Deputy Kenny and you've rejected the suggestion that he has put to you, which is that you bring forward the date of the budget, which is a proposition with which I would agree. But you've rejected it now, and you've said, right, you're sticking with the 7th of December. So what is your timeline after the 7th of December? When do you envisage the Finance Bill in particular being presented, being voted on, and being enacted? And secondly, can I ask you this, since we're in circumstances that one of the parties in government have already semi-detached themselves now from government, and we've heard statements from some of the independent deputies who have been loyally supporting your government over the last 3 years, suggesting that perhaps that loyalty and continued support is at least in doubt. Do you consider that the government has the majority that is sufficient to put through the financial resolutions on the budget on budget night itself, the Social Welfare Bill, which will come after that, and the Finance Bill? Well, first of all, can I say that it is important that we have clarity and that we have stability, both in relation to budgetary matters and in relation to the political life of the country. But to be honest, I think, Taoiseach, you have brought anything but clarity to this matter in your replies both to Deputy Kenny and to myself. Now, let me start with this. I don't think that it is in this country's interest that the budgetary process is prolonged to the end of March. I don't think it is in our interest that we have a 3 to 4 month period of instability, of doubt, of lack of clarity about whether or not the budget is going through. And the budgetary process is not completed, as you well know, until the Finance Bill is enacted. And last year, that was the end of March. Now, I asked you very clearly what was your intention with regard to the Finance Bill in particular. The other pieces of legislation, the Appropriations Bill presumably will be before Christmas, and the Social Welfare Bill last year was before Christmas. So I'm asking you, particularly in relation to the Finance Bill, what is your intention with regard to that? Because it's not acceptable, I think, and it's not in anybody's interest that that process is completed is not completed and is strung out for a 3 to 4 month period. I mean, 3 to 4 months of that kind of uncertainty and instability is not in the country's interest. And I invite you again to tell us clearly. Deputy Kenny asked you, would you bring forward the date of the budget? You've declined that. I'm asking you now to tell us clearly when we are going to see, when you see the end of the process, when you envisage the finance bill being completed. And my second question, which I asked you earlier, which you haven't responded to, you are now in a situation, Taoiseach, and you have said this before here to us a number of times, that the constitutional responsibility for bringing forward and putting through a budget rests with the government. I'm asking you, given the announcement that was made yesterday by the Green Party, given the statements that were made by some independents, do you consider that you have a majority on your side of the House to put through the budget and the legislation that goes with it?